Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 23 of Tactical Crouch. We're a couple days late, just 3 days late though, it's not too bad. Tactical Crouch, of course, the podcast where we talk about a bunch of competitive Overwatch topics. Despite, or in contrary to popular belief, this is actually not an Overwatch League podcast. Did you know that, Joe? This is not an Overwatch League podcast.
Yeah, we're pretty general, we'll talk about anything and everything, and contenders is still pretty important, guys. We still got to show some love to the old T2 community.
So if I ever hear the comment again, like, why aren't they talking about Overwatch League on an Overwatch League podcast? Boy, you're banned. You're banned. So anyways, last week was fun. We're a couple days late today because, believe it or not, Overwatch League players are pretty busy. And so Dogman taking time out of his day to come in to hang out with us. Dogman, I really appreciate it, man. I mean, you're the quintessential like American grinder. Grind all the way through every single level of competitive Overwatch. Got to Overwatch League, and then now you're on the show. So basically tippity top. So okay, maybe not that last part, but first of all, congratulations on all of that. That's amazing. But second of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I just wanted to wake up early today, so we're good. This works out perfectly for me. Every other one of my teammates wake up like at least at noon. So nobody likes to wake up early here.
Typical gamer hours. All right, I like it.
So
I see Atlanta Reign.
Is that because of like the Overwatch League schedule too, or is that just like preferential game till 2? Sleep till noon thing.
That's definitely just preferential by them. Like, I mean, we probably, yeah. It's just generally they feel like they play better when they wake up an hour before. But I was like the opposite before. I always like to wake up like at least 5 hours before to get like really warmed up before. But it's easy to get tired out if you
yeah
don't have like aren't prepped for that schedule, I guess. But thanks for having me on the podcast, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. Yiska, welcome back,
yes.
sir. Good to see you.
Hello.
You're looking good and got that camera in the right, like you're actually in the camera frame this time. So
incredible. Let's see if I can maintain that. Usually because I'm like an old man now, like my back starts hurting and then I got to, move to this position, and then also the arm doesn't extend as far. So just adjust for that.
Fair enough. We've got a pretty stacked show today, so we're going to jump right in it. Before we do, though, a couple housekeeping things. Did change that Twitter handle. I haven't even updated it on like the main vector yet, but you find us on Twitter at @tactical_crouch rather than OWL Daily Show. OWL Daily is no longer a thing. So Tactical Crouch, it is everywhere, and everything should be relabeled on your podcast feeds as Tactical Crouch as well. If it's not, send us a message on Twitter or something so I can fix it. But I think I got everywhere. Also, no, actually, no other alsos. That's it. Thanks for being here. We record live on Twitch, usually on Tuesdays. This week, Friday, usually in the mornings. This week, very early in the morning. But other than that, let's get started. Joe, I'm going to pass this one to you here. Moon, coach for LA Valiant, translator, no longer with the organization. What's going on?
Speaking of housekeeping, Valiant making some changes after their 0-7 split. This has been pretty interesting, to say the least. We're hearing things kind of come out of the woodwork. Maybe it's a bigger problem than what we're prescribing. But Yiska, what do you think's going on here? What's the problem with Valiant? What are we prescribing? MD Yiska.
Well, the thing is, it's sort of like the same thing that Valiant did last season, even though I think they were at a way better score. I think it was 6-4. And also, if you then look at stage 2, I think they went 4-6. So it got worse before it got better, right? And is that true? Does that even make sense? I don't think they had 10 losses last season, right? I'm probably wrong on my numbers.
I will look.
In general, it's an interesting move. I'm not sure if it's a smart one, but the thing is, okay, I think if there was an error made, of course systems get installed or maintained or made worse during the off season, not necessarily while Overwatch League is going on. And I wonder, like, I made that joke like on your podcast. It's like, so all the pundits always criticize for Valiant for like, okay, we don't actually know why they're so good. Like nothing sticks out. It's like they just play solid Overwatch and they're somehow second. And apparently they themselves didn't know what made them successful, and apparently subtracted all of that. And also, we will continuously have to say this for all those teams like Houston, which team also didn't make many changes. I think that those are the two teams that didn't make drastic changes, that didn't have performances that you would probably want them to have, or that they had this expectation of. So yeah, I think it's Valiant continues to be hard to read in both what went right last season and then also what went wrong, mainly also because a lot of their issues or strength seem to be stemming from intangible factors, I suppose.
And to your credit, you were correct in stage one. I think the numbers were a little off. I think you had them at like 6-4. They were actually 7-3 in stage one. Stage two, they went 4-6. But this kind of goes into a lot of what Noah Winston, the CEO of Valiant, has said publicly about having to change things proactively to fix problems that they foresee in the future. So taking something that might be good for the team at the moment, but not in the long run, and change it so that you have some shortcomings, but in the long run, you hope that the investment's worth it. So, Dogman, I have to pose this question to you: are there times when you have games that you win, but they really don't feel like wins? You can definitely tell that in the myriad of teams that you've played for, are there problems that you guys can see early on with a team structure that you kind of have to take 2 steps back to go a step forward? Is that something that you kind of can resonate with?
I think well, specifically in Overwatch League, I think there's been one game that's definitely like that, which was the well, not structure,
Sure,
but I think specifically individual play was the Florida game. The Mayhem game, our first game of the season, like I played like garbage. But like I feel like people don't, it's not very obvious when people play like garbage, I guess, when you are the one doing a 4-0, obviously, but like definitely there's a lot of games that even I don't know, like every game I lost, I feel like in contenders at least, I felt like it was just because I particularly played bad or like something like that. So I don't know. I'm always one to put the blame more on myself than like my teammates and that kind of stuff. And specifically the Gladiators game, I guess, was less that though. I think probably the Gladiators game I felt better individually than I did in the Florida game. So, but that one felt like as a team we didn't perform well at all. So I think that was like the first like real team loss that we had was the Gladiator game. But besides that, I mean, yeah, we haven't really taken too many steps back. I think we're just still moving forward, right? It's a long.
Of course.
I think that the fact that it's like a long season really resonates. I think with most of us, or I think with every Overwatch League player, just because it is, even though there's less games this season, it's still really long, and like you still have to go to the next week. So it's like there's no time off to like really. I mean, you have like the day after, I guess, but for the most part, you have to focus on like the next game instead of worrying too much about one loss, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless you have 7 losses in a row, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's mostly about trajectories, right? And I wonder how hard it was for Valiant to read that their trajectory was more towards them getting worse than getting better in the off season, right? It's because theoretically, yes, the length of the season has been reduced, so there's less time to get back, I suppose, and also honestly, like making season playoffs is now a really challenging task for the Valiant at this point. Like you almost need another perfect stage like they had. And no, did they have a perfect stage?
Don't think so. I'll look at stage 4.
No, I think it was only Boston that had them, and they lost one game against, I think, Gladiators or something. Yeah, I think in general, if you still feel like and also have empirical evidence that you're consistently improving, then those effects of just getting 1% better every day should be measurable and also should not scare you too much. But then at the same time, the question is how quickly is your opposition improving? And especially, like, for instance, London and teams like that, like I guess you can hold on to expecting like monstrous changes in your play, but I'm not sure if Valiant even had the fundamentals to expect as much. So it's very hard for me to say that this wasn't a significant error in both understanding how their success worked last season, and then also not anticipating how great actually expansion teams would also be playing. Like it feels like almost they're in a situation where Brad was in last season, where I think he said on Oversight or something, I underestimated how what it would take to be good in the Overwatch League. I think they underestimated how much it would take to be competitive in the Overwatch League this season.
But the Houston Outlaws didn't change much either, and they're about flat year over year. Does that just mean that those players like improved and adapted in the off season, whereas
they have
Valiant
the easiest
didn't?
They have the easiest schedule with Toronto, and I think one could argue you guys also had pretty easy stage, right? All things considered now, with like how teams actually shaped up to be, not just like
with Reign. With our schedule, yeah, I'd say so for the most part. Yeah, I think Gladiators is probably that was 100% the toughest game we've had so far. So yeah, we probably definitely should have beaten Philly, and then yeah, I guess for the most part, especially with early in the season with the teams being out rosters or without players because they were banned or whatever, like with Neko. Yeah, I could see that being a factor for sure. I mean, like, yeah, playoffs were definitely like the bigger picture, for most part of the season. Even before the Gladiators game, because like, yeah, I guess the regular season wasn't too difficult in comparison to other groups like Shock or whatever like that had like one of the hardest seasons this stage, or one of the hardest stages. So yeah, I guess our stage wasn't too hard.
Yeah.
So in this next week, you're going up against Chengdu and Houston, which I mean, we were talking about this. We said it should be. Obviously there's no easy weeks probably in Overwatch League, but they are ones that you look like you should be winning here, and then going into the playoffs. Does that kind of feel right?
You never know. I mean, like with Chengdu and Outlaws, we're pretty much practicing for like two different teams in 1 week, pretty much. Like Chengdu has their own play style, they have their own stuff, and like we may not even get to practice the stuff that we play against them, like in practice or whatever, just because of the fact that no other team plays like them. So the only like, I guess because we were talking about like the tier 2 scene, I don't know if it was before or like during the podcast, but for the most part, that's what academy teams are used for right now, is like that practice right before matches, and like also like the week before, because the academy team can play whatever you need them to pretty much. So they're like really vital in the fact that we use them for the current meta, and that they also practice the current meta, in that we can just practice for these like unorthodox playstyles like Chengdu. But they were pretty much practicing for like two different teams this weekend. Like, yeah, they may not have, I guess, the best records, and I think Chengdu is out of playoff contention, right? Or
yeah,
I have to remember. I think
out.
so. Yeah,
2 and 4, they're out.
Yeah, they're out.
Yeah, and then Outlaws, I think, can still.
Yes.
Outlaws has a good chance.
Yes.
So yeah, 100% those games will be still pretty difficult. I don't know if we 4-0 Chengdu and then like still lost 3-2 to Outlaws. I think we might still be out. I'm pretty sure. I'm not too sure, but anyway. Regardless, both teams like I don't think have like the best score for how good they actually probably are, and especially that they can run like different comps. Like Houston could probably run some sort of like Sombra strats or whatever, and it's hard to fully prepare for both teams.
You mentioned something kind of interesting about the academy teams there that I kind of want to dive into.
Oh yeah.
with having an academy team, and you guys are obviously this big owl franchise, do you expect some of these contenders teams, especially the academy teams, to bring on a little bit more specialized players for that reason? So in the future, if you do have some sort of metagame where there is a wrecking ball carry player threat that you need to practice against, you have that in your repertoire that you can pull out and have the main team practice against. Do you think that's something in the cards for the future?
Maybe. I think specifically, I think if anything, they'd just be brought up to Overwatch League, right? Because like, wouldn't you want that player
Sure.
on your team if they're specialized or something like that, right? Because I guess
ideally,
even like in our roster, like Lair is like really good at like a few hit scan heroes, so like he's kind of like our hit scan like carry potential player. So like, even I know he's like not necessarily that specific, like Wrecking Ball or whatever. Like he still has a pretty decent hero pool, but I guess like we're already seeing some sort of like specialized players, I guess, but like not necessarily in the roles like main tank and that kind of stuff. Like because main tanks, I think right now especially are probably is 100%. That's why I have like the most respect for it. I think in the watch point coming this weekend, I talk about it, but I think like main tank players have it like the hardest, or have the hardest role in the whole league, or in Overwatch in general, because they have to play like 3 heroes that play. I guess Wrecking Ball and Winston play sort of similar, but they have like entirely different mechanics, like all 3 of them pretty much. So, or not entirely different, but like it's a very hard role to play because you have so many different things in your hero pool, I guess. But like as flex support, all I have to play is Zen, Ana, and like Moira or whatever. So I mean, and those 3 heroes play relatively similarly. Like flex support, you have to play like more safe, I guess. But for those other 3 roles, like you have different jobs for each one, and different metas to play in, I guess.
I just looked at your schedule and the maps, and it looks like you're playing Horizon, Lunar Colony, and Rialto against both Houston Outlaws and Chengdu. So I wonder if the strategy just be to go all in on the other map for Chengdu. And then I hear that Houston has like this special right now where you win 2 maps, get 1 for free in game 5. So
yeah,
that's
take them to 5 and you win.
I think it's
sellout sale. They're liquidating. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I mean it would be a reverse sweep, but that would make it all the sweeter, I suppose. But yeah, no,
so far we're a team not known for reverse sweep, so
not yet.
True.
We'll see. But I think even if we beat both of the teams, I think we go to 3rd in the standings over Toronto. I think no matter what, because right now we're +5 map differential, so it's pretty important that, I mean, obviously it's important we beat the teams, but like it doesn't matter, I guess, how much we beat them by. I'm pretty sure just need to beat them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk about the Reign a little bit, though, because, well, actually, before we do that, can we just talk for a second? Joe, do you think that it's weird that we have 2 teams that are winless in a stage? Now, we have 20. We had 12 last season, right? So we're kind of doubling in a way, so it makes sense that we maybe have 2. But, like, this stage feels really competitive, but when you look at the fact that we have 2 winless teams, is that just, like, weird to you?
It's weird that it's weird to see some of the individuals that have been performing quite poorly. Would it surprise me if you had asked me, in the preseason if Washington would have won a game? When you look at their schedule, that's a tough schedule to squeak out a win in. You know what I mean? That's a rough schedule. I think you play some of the top teams that people were just projecting to be good, let alone how the teams actually shaped out. So I kind of assumed that they were going to be on the rougher end. So I kind of had them definitely at the bottom. Not a lot of wins. Maybe you squeak one out here or there towards the end. I think they play Mayhem as one of their last matches. Is it surprising that the Valiant of all teams is winless? Yeah, that's pretty shocking. I was pretty down on them in terms of just how I was predicting the preseason. But was this where I had them? No, I don't think any expert, any pundit, anybody who watches a game of competitive Overwatch last season would have told you that this is where the Valiant would end up. So does it surprise me? A little bit, definitely. I think it has to, right?
I guess. I mean, and that seems like the one. I think the other one that we Well, we did, season rankings, right? But and we had Paris Eternal pretty far down there, kind of in the bottom, but this was supposed to be like their like all-star stage, Yiska. This is the EU super team. Oh, you're muted.
Whoops. Yeah, sorry for coughing. Yeah, and then Atlanta claps them 4-0, I guess. That was unexpected to me. I think that really just completely turned the entire narrative around. We will have to see, though, how... I mean, they didn't have an easy stage, I will also say, just by virtue of not dodging both of the first two teams, in the sense that they did play Vancouver. So, yeah, I think, it doesn't spell good news for Paris that they are already, that sort of the magic is gone now, and that they are actually not qualified for stage playoffs. I think that's, if they got it this season, it was probably going to be the first stage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think Eternal's getting better, but it's a bit too late for that now, I guess. Yeah, because they can't make stage playoffs. So, in the metas, potentially, you never know if it could change by the next stage. I guess we don't know yet. But yeah, I don't know. I think Eternal was really good at goats at the beginning, and then something happened, and then they lost to us, and they lost us so much confidence. I don't know. Yeah. And then it just seemed like they just didn't trust each other or something. Probably by the next matches. I mean, I guess you can't put it all on that because you can't just blame getting 4-0'd for the next. Did they get 4-0'd for each match, or was it they got 1-3-1 in there? I think.
Let me check.
Let me take a look.
I think actually had the 3-1 against Vancouver. I think.
Yeah, no, they got 4-0'd by Vancouver.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought they won that
and
one.
And then 3-1 against Chong. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. So yeah. I don't know. I think they just, you can't put it all on confidence, but I think for sure they'd something about when they played, they made it, I don't know, tilted off the face of the earth after they played a match or something like that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Feels bad for them.
A little bit.
If you want to make stage playoffs and you can have 3 losses tops, you probably don't want them, knowing that Shock and Vancouver is coming up, getting that gut punch against you guys was probably pretty demoralizing. Was there something that, a specific thing that you just figured out about them and you just completely had their number because of it?
No, I don't think so. I think we for one we played decent, but for 2 they just played so passive and never did anything. I guess they didn't make any plays, and when they did make plays, it was really shaky and just generally it didn't have they just seemed scared the whole time pretty much. I guess they didn't want to fight. And I guess that was their play style, is to play passive or something like that. And maybe they were really good at that, but in matches it just didn't work out at all for them. I guess in this meta especially, it seems Gladiators played how they probably should have played when we played against Gladiators. They played this passive play style that has a counter punch and some really good techniques for playing in the current meta. But I think Brad was talking about the other day to me, but it's very rock paper scissors right now, this meta, because certain play styles can beat certain teams, I guess. So when we play against Gladiators, they had a really good play style against us, and when we play against Paris, I mean, I guess they got wrecked by a lot of teams, but certain teams play a certain way, and Vancouver has a very aggressive play style. It's very easy to tell these things, but you never know how they work up against each other, I guess.
Within, you mentioned Watchpoint a little earlier, and I think it was you and DeFran in your Paris match leading up to it. They had this pre-roll about kind of trying to position a little bit of a rivalry. Is how valid is that? Do we how friendly are we with the EU boys?
I thought that was an interview for for a news website or something like that. I didn't realize it was for actually for Overwatch League. So I got debated a little bit.
All right.
Because right before they were prepping us right before. They were oh yeah, this is the whole point of this is to clip some bits of you guys talking trash, something like that. So for the most part, we pretty much avoided saying anything bad about them for the most part. But they told us what Cruz said about London the other week or whatever, or something like that, and then I don't know. It was just by the end of it, they didn't put it in the thing. I think I don't know how much I've talked about it, but like he asked us, or he told us like how Cruz said that they played it like 60%. Like against London, and they still won, or did they win against London? They did.
Yeah,
right?
they beat London.
Yeah, so he was like, "Oh, they played against 60% against London," and then he said something like, "Oh, if we play 100%, we'll beat Atlanta easily," or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I posed the question. I was like, "Oh, so you only use 10% of your brain or something like that?" and then I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe we're playing at 6%. So if we use at least 10% of our brain, we're gonna beat Paris."
Player
like
math.
That.
This is a new version of caster math where players try to use some sort of like. I like it. All right.
Is that the same type or the same region in the brain that calculates the amount of percentages you won scrims in? That never matches up.
Yeah. I was like, I just did not have. I didn't have anything to say to them, I guess.
Fair enough.
So I was just trying to do quick maths in my head to say something. It's easy. It's easier to say things sporadically and on stage.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I don't know if that much is obvious.
I love it. I love it. We should just have the feeding conversation now, Yiska.
You want to jump into everybody's a feeder?
They're feeding.
Oh, God. I want a shirt that hopefully
you should brand that. That should you need to pitch this to Brad and get to.
I need to call more people feeders. Give me another stage. Give me a second.
You're kind of positioning yourself to kind of be the double lift of Overwatch. You know, everybody's trash and everybody's a feeder. You just have to get a Red Cross logo, but you know, something more Atlanta Reign like, and you know, you're just letting everybody know that, you know, each and every team has their own, you know, bank of food that you can go and
next they just need to make a super team and then just go undefeated for, you know, a couple seasons.
What I actually want to see is at the end of the match, when you're going to shake hands and all that stuff with the other team, I want you to hand the other team a spork. And like in your hand, a spork.
Oh, God. I don't know if they'd let me.
So that they can continue to feed themselves.
Oh, God. I'm branding myself even to the players, dude. Oh, God.
Just be like, boom. There you go. You have one spork and you sign it. You sign the bowl part of the spork. And the person who fed the most on the team, you reach in the pocket, boom, spork.
That should just be him. Actually, I said it on Watchpoint, but I felt bad for Cruz after, because like people were like going hard on him for like the following weeks. They just kept calling him a feeder over and over and over again. Like I was like, damn, this is like bullying at this point. I didn't mean to cause that much commotion about it for sure.
I think that's just a natural consequence of the play style that he has, and also Calix has, for instance. Like when I watch Calix, sometimes like he has the biggest boops and plays, and he really sets up everything, like a lot of Boston's plays. But it's like sometimes he's just turbo feeding into a meat grinder. Like it's like he gets caught on a diva and everyone just shoots him, and he's like, "Yeah, I can't movement spam out of this." I think it's just a side effect of like, if one was to take that statement seriously. I'm not even sure if how many, for instance, first death Cruz had in the series against you guys. That would be interesting to see.
I think Neptuno had a lot more first deaths in the Philly game than Cruz did. So, but I mean, like, I guess everybody on Paris just got destroyed, whereas in the Philly game, just Neptuno got destroyed. So it's kind of like individual versus team play, I guess. So it wasn't just on Cruz for sure. I think
people don't care as much if you're winning. If you're winning and making fights close, it's when you're not winning and then boom, you're dying first. People are ruthless. Do you get ruthless tweets very often, Dustin?
Not really.
I know. You had to deal with?
No, just after the Paris game, I think I had some questionable requests in my DMs from European people, like where they're like I was kind of scared. I was like, shit, I said something really bad about Cruz. Maybe next time I'm out, dude, I'm gonna see a jump by a bunch of freaking guys from Paris or something like that. You never know. You never know with that shit, dude. It's crazy. Somebody could just walk up and just give me a sucker punch and be like, "This is for Europe" or something like that, and I'm just like, "Oh crap."
I hope he says that too. This is for Europe. That's it.
Oh, form of revolution.
Exposed. Okay, so I looked at the stats of the Philly against Reign series. So admittedly, Enlia was the biggest feeder with like 20 minutes of playtime. He had 25% FD. The next one with 41 minutes of playtime, 42, 16% Dogman on Zenyatta.
Yeah, I think the majority of our mistakes from that game was not knowing how to play against Winston Goats. I didn't know how to play against Winston Goats, and I think for two as a team we didn't know how to play against Winston Goats because like there's certain things that you do against Winston Goats now, or like when you play against that kind of comp, that like is better. But like majority of those deaths from Volskaya because like, or is Volskaya, and then I think some of them were on Ilios too because like we just kept feeding on Lighthouse, I think. So by we I mean me, I guess. But as a team, it was why I died because like literally we didn't know how to play against Winston Goats, and like I kept getting discorded, and then they'd just jump me, and then like I'd be dead. But like that was just because we didn't know how to play against it, and I didn't know how to avoid discord, and me and Pokebo didn't work together very well at that time. I'm pretty sure on that fact specifically. But yeah, I died a lot on Volskaya, and we still won that map, but I think the amount of deaths I had was like at least maybe over 20. I don't know. I don't think it was that high, but it definitely died a lot and had a lot of. I mean, like luckily I also killed a lot too. So it did. Luckily, it wasn't just a one-sided story. Luckily,
yeah.
But
unless you're
otherwise...
talking to Yiska, Yiska makes it a one-side story.
I also checked Cruz. He was actually hardcore feeding first death in the series against you guys. He was at 18%, and that was by far the most, with Nico at 15. And that's not even that terrible for Briggs. But yeah, for Lucio, it's pretty bad.
Briggs kind of odd. You kind of really in Overwatch you have to play like it seems like you do nothing kind of on Brig. Like where you have to like sit back just so that you don't feed. And then like you want to save bash and like shift, I guess, for like those mid fights or something like that. But for the most part, it seems like Brig just really doesn't do anything.
Sit there in
but
armor pack.
Yeah, the whole point is to live and to like not feed, I guess, on Brig.
So is Houston just kind of not getting the memo? Like what's going on there?
I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, hopefully they feed.
Yeah,
I'll be
hopefully
sure to let
they
them
don't
know.
figure that out until next stage. Who's the biggest feeder on Houston in your opinion?
Oh, I don't know.
All right.
I don't think it's Raucous. I think that's a bit of a false storyline probably. I think I don't know. I think he makes mistakes. I think a lot of flex supports in Overwatch they make mistakes, but I definitely don't think Raucous deserves all of the shit that he gets, I guess. I mean, yeah, I guess stats wise. Oh yeah, what were you saying?
He just has like a propensity to be out of position in the last fight where it looks bad. And then people think that somehow matters more than every other fight beforehand.
Well, it's just like flashy plays. It's like when you see a flashy play, you're like, oh, that guy's so sick. And it's like, well, that was just one play. Let's evaluate like all of their plays. And Raucous, yeah, he's not the best player in the world, but, does he deserve Reddit threads about him and, lambasting him? Probably not. No, I don't think he's that bad, but, not the best, I would say.
I think right now flex support's all about efficiency and like making sure that like you can do the most with your kit as possible, and then like I don't know, because I noticed at least with me specifically, like I was really like my damage output is like decent to not the best, but like I have a lot of final blows and stuff like that. Like I think that's like is like not necessarily the right way to play the game, I guess, but it's like it's just the way that I guess I did for the longest time. So that's why I guess generally my damage output's not that high at the beginning. It's just because like I guess like, yeah, it's just all about efficiency. It's like making sure you're making the most of your kit and like always doing a lot of damage. And like it's also about the shield pressure and like the damage output that you have on shields and stuff. That's why Violet and Jonak are so high for the most part, because they just spam left click the whole time and they're not like wasting any downtime and making sure that they can get the most out of right clicks and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, a lot of flex support, I never rated my role very highly, I guess. Like, that's why I didn't like even the fact that Jonak was MVP last season, because I was like, I don't think as a flex support, the impact is even that high. Even when I watch him, I think that there's like, he's doing a lot of things good and he's like being very efficient, but I don't think that that's like an MVP caliber role, I guess. I mean, like, yeah, I guess you can get there, but I don't agree with it, I guess.
Very interesting, because like the difference is like the owner or like the founder of Winston's Lab and now Toronto Defiant analyst Baroy made like a statistical breakdown of like Zenyatta's, and like till stage 3 you could almost perfectly match the league standing to the actual performance of the Zenyattes. And he also seems to conclude that Zenyatta is probably the most important role in the game.
Really?
Which is interesting. Yeah.
I mean, it's I think it's mainly because I have a pessimistic view towards my role, I guess. So like for the most part, I guess it's also why I call people feeders on Lucios and stuff like that, just because like I don't really feel that highly of our role, I guess, just because I feel like at least half of the Zens in the Overwatch League aren't very good. Like I think for the most part, like there's a lot of mistakes that are made, and I think that it's just general playstyle things that I think that they probably won't fix either. So it's like for the most part, flex support, like when you come into the league as a flex support, like you can't. A lot of Zens don't really improve, I guess, throughout the year. They just kind of either come in really good or not, I guess. But like with Violet, for instance, he just came in and he's a rock star. So like it's like easy to come in and be really good, and then but it's hard to come in bad and then get good, I guess. I don't know.
I think he still needs to almost go like through a Jonak-esque transformation, at least with his trance usage, because there's still some questionable stuff right there. Yeah.
I know at Tripod, I know you wanted to talk, but I think Yiska, on that point, I think trance as a whole like is kind of weird, I guess, because like you can use it in so many different ways. I think right now, like for the most part, when you see like trans usage like that, I guess when you see like trans usage like that out of Violet, I think that might be like a coaching thing, or like what Krusty and them have told him, because like for the most part, I know I would change my trans usage if it like wasn't good for the meta, or if like we had a different play style or something like that. Like there's a lot of areas where you can use it early. You just need to you need your team to be able to int with it, I guess, or like actually do something with those trances, and then also do it in positions for that. But if their team is telling him like, oh, you could just use it on cooldown, then he's probably going to use it on cooldown, I guess, right? And it's not necessarily a bad thing, I think.
So you're kind of the school of this very Korean-minded transcendence usage, or the support uses actually, where you're using it almost for tempo and less for reactive, trying to take, Earth Shatter or a Graviton, or maybe even trying to catch the rally and kind of, react to their ultimates. You're trying to use it a little bit more proactively. Is that kind of where you're headed with it?
Yeah, I guess. Without giving away too many.
Sure, of course.
Details,
no trade secrets here.
I mean, did you get to read the article from Benchmob?
I did not yet. What's that? What was the gist of it?
He basically thinks, also because Kodak had sort of like similar patterns, is that its coaching style, like totally like selfless Brad, basically, about using trans very tempo-esque, because Brad is probably like one of the fathers of tempo Overwatch, if we think about back, like spawn camping selfless.
I think someone like also Silence should get a lot of credit though for like our play style too. Like I don't know how much you guys know about him, about our coach, the assistant coach. He's from France. He literally eats like this certain like diet so that he doesn't freaking die. So he just like lives in this little turtle of a house all day 24/7 in France, and he's just like the biggest brain dude, because I've known him since LNL, so he's like really smart. He's one of I think he's one of the reasons that like we have certain playstyles, and he leads a lot of our VOD review sessions for sure. Like Brad's a really good head coach, and then Silence is a really good brain. So I don't remember why I was saying that specifically. I kind of
because of the high tempo trank usage. So for instance, I think the article, I would have to recall it because it's like a couple of days ago and I'm old. But the idea was basically that you don't necessarily have to, like, it doesn't seem like a necessity that you have a trance for every graph that the opponent charges. And you also seem to be using it a lot to not die, I suppose, in fights. And then also use it to almost engage and like win fights based on that. And your like the team fight percentage with trance as a result of this is I think among the highest in the league. But of course, very high, yeah, you also have one of the lowest success rates in turning around when being graphed. So that's
it's just because like I guess like for the most part, if a team has good grab combo or like against Trank, like you should die to it. I think for the most part, unless they make some mistake or something like that. If they grab combo, you should just die to it pretty much. So I think I guess it's like along that mindset where if they grab combo, you're dead. So there's no point in tranking it. I guess you might as well do something more beneficial with it. You know, I mean, I guess like you can do it, but I don't know. Vancouver doesn't do it. Do they do it much, or do they always save trank for grabs? I think they do actually always save trank for grab. Twilight's
I think so.
Twilight likes to save his ult, I think, a lot.
Yeah.
I think there are some times where Bumper, like if they don't have enough resources to catch Bumper, like if Bumper gets solo grabbed, like they'll invest Transcendence into trying to like move forward and save him. But,
yeah,
for the most part,
I think NYXL's also have like that same mindset where they. Just
I think a lot of teams are.
They let Mano die a lot, like and they somehow win team fights even when Mano dies. Like I noticed when I was watching, I think their last game where they just let like Mano die sometimes out in the open, and it's just like when Jonak has Trank.
Just cut your losses. No reason to try and run across, Antarctica to try and save your teammate. When it's like, okay, well, they have to invest a lot into that. We'll take what we have and make do with what we have.
There's merit to both sides of Trank usage, I think. But
it's play styles, like you said, it's different views on the game, and whoever has the better execution, I suppose, wins.
Yeah.
I guess just to shout that piece out, just check it out from Benchmark. I think it was honestly one of, if not the best analytical article that we've had this year. Yeah. Like he really breaks it down, takes like team fights you won. Like he has like a table of all the team fights you played in like a match, and just how explains how you do it. Yeah, it's really cool.
I'll have to check it out after this then.
That's really cool.
It's a long one.
Yes.
Definitely
Multiple
definitely not a
thousands.
bathroom reader. Unless you like that, I guess. Started watching movies in the shower, so there's that.
Yeah.
That's what
you're also the guy on a Ouija board, like a freaking like those boards right now.
You gotta keep that butt tone, man.
It's like that
core strength, baby.
It's like that Shaq gif where he's like dancing, he's like ready, he's like moving back and forth, but his head stays still the whole time.
Oh yeah, I know
it's
what you're
fancy,
talking about. Yeah, that's about all I have to contribute to that conversation, unfortunately. So
no, it's okay.
Link to the article. Let me get a link to the article for you.
I get you. Hold on.
Boom. Do we want to talk? Do you have any other coaching questions, Yiska? I know you were really curious about the coaching setup.
Yeah, because like especially with new expansion teams, because we didn't have time, and then also like legitimately some coaches, I think there's merit to not even discussing that too much or being a public personality as a coach. Like for instance, we don't know much about NYXL, how that worked, and like we assumed sort of it was all Wizard Young because he talked shit on Oversight once, and like hearing about Silence was interesting. Like what's your coaching stuff in general like? What's the structure, I suppose?
I guess crap, I don't know how much I should touch on it. But overall, like I guess to what I'm thinking about, like we have, so Silence is like one of our like main strategic coaches. Casaurus is a good like assistant head coach kind of, I guess, where he also leads a lot of the VOD review sessions. He's like a lot of the face of our team, I think, as well. So he has a big factor in it, I guess. And then Brad's our head coach, so Brad's like, I guess, like the crusty or like the who else would it be like? I guess like Pavane and like being like also head coach or someone like I guess Boone was for Valiant, where he takes a lot of that like head coaching role. And then Danny's an analyst for us. He doesn't even really communicate with us that much, but he does a lot of like general stats and all that kind of stuff. Danny, that's why we call him Danny with the stats all the time. And then I didn't talk about Silence, I guess, but Silence is like also like we talk to him a lot, but he has a lot of say in what we do in the strategy. But like it's mainly, I guess, like Danny feeds them information, and then like they're like the three heads that always work on like what we need to do, and also like coming up with strategies and like giving us game plans and that kind of stuff. So
how much of it is like macro like coaching, and how much do you actually get coached on micro stuff?
I think for the most part, a lot of it is macro. I think Casaurus is our performance coach, so like if we have any questions or if we're doing something extraordinarily bad, or like we feel like we are, then we can always go to like a 1v1 session with them. But for the most part, as a whole, I think a lot of it's just macro. I think a lot of it's just stuff that we work on as a team. Like there's obviously some individual things, but for the most part, like when we have losses, it feels like it's like a team error than more than like an individual basis. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. But
Yep.
Coach questions. You good, Yiska?
Yeah, I'm fine on.
All right.
I mean, I understand that you can't, you know, like talk about the entire structure because structure is super important. And if you figured something out about coaching, you probably don't want to give that away. Like a lot of teams still structurally have issues in the Overwatch League where it's like, okay, so what kind of a character do you actually need for a head coach? What kind of character do you need as an assistant coach? Like who should have the game knowledge here and who should have the people skills and who does the management stuff so everything just works, you know? What kind of other factors do you need? And then also it's a little bit about min-maxing, I think, for a lot of the expansion teams, because like buying in was already more expensive and then you had to set up. And like if you come later, everything is like less cost efficient than it was the first time around. And yeah, in general, I think a lot of expansion teams just took the approach of like not over hiring, but just trying to be very effective and also trying to find out, okay, so we definitely need that role or we definitely need that role. While other teams, like for instance, like Dallas comes to mind, they just like seem to have a big coaching staff that just covers a lot of bases.
Well, yeah, and I think on that note, because we were talking about Valiant earlier, I think that like personally, I always put I put a little bit of blame on Moon. And I think, like, I don't know if it was even his fault that they went 0-7. Like, it probably wasn't directly his fault. But I think especially this meta, I think it's for sure a meta that, like, that shows that you have good coaches or like, I don't know. I think it's just really a meta that shows you have good coaching because, like, they have a good roster, in my opinion. I think Space, like, do you guys still think Space is, like, the best Western diva or even one of the best divas in the league? Or do you think he's fallen off a little bit or something? Or... Like
I still think he's good. I'd have to sit there and look, but I don't think he's dropped too far down in my kind of general.
Yeah, I mean, like they have a good roster
in terms of people.
I think Kariv had a pretty good Zarya actually too. I think
yes,
when I played him in
speaking.
Yeah, when I played him in ranked, he was like a lot like Sinatra, where he was like this carry Zarya that would just like get a lot of energy and just like frag out. Like he was really good at that. And I think if they had good coaching on Valiant, I think like. I don't see them not turning that team into like a good GOATS roster. So it's like, I guess that's like the only question mark of Valiant was their coaching. I don't want to necessarily blame them because we haven't seen, next stage or anything, but
sure.
A surprisingly good roster just wasn't utilized correctly. I feel like this stage.
Fair enough.
I mean, some people I guess will argue differently where they say that, they're missing DPS or something like that. But I think even then, yeah, you could still do well, I think, with their current roster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like an 0-7 roster without it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, roster-wise, no. The only position where you could say that just based on what requirements the meta has is probably Lucio, because they play sort of like a game of
I think that's
the walls are lava. It's like, yeah, I think
the bad part is that I don't even feel like that was like the main reason that they went 0-7, Yiska. Like that was like a big glaring thing that like I think was like a red flag towards the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion.
Yeah. No, yeah. And then also in general, like this meta just requires you to be a unit. Like you can't just like scream winnable as Widow and just, win team fights like Carpe or whatever. Like that's not the meta for this, right?
Hmm. I mean, yeah, I guess for the most part, yeah, it's not like a meta for that. But you can still win fights 5v6, so it's definitely. I guess there's not like I don't know how many stats you guys have on like how many 5v6s are actually won, but there is like there's still clutchability, I think, in this meta. As long as you don't lose a certain hero, I think there's still clutchability.
Yeah. Zarya is the one where if you lose her first, you have the lowest win rate, and then.
Zarya is then probably Reign Brig. Maybe
Reign is second, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Interestingly, because I think it's very different. Like even though we talk about the same archetype, I still think that Monkey Goats is very different in how it operates, and also how the Zarya needs to play, and also what kind of advantages of Zarya gets through that playstyle, and how she can use the space. So, yeah, it's like those you'd probably have to tear apart those stats and see, okay, in Reign Goats, like if Zarya dies, that is the bad part. Yes. But I'm not 100% convinced that. Probably Zarya is still very important. I'm not sure about how the other percentages shake out. But overall, one has to say, this is actually the meta where it is less likely to win a fight when you're one down than comparison to last season. Like,
well, yeah,
it's very counterintuitive because we had Resist and whatever from Mercy, but getting first kill was still just as consequential as it was when there was no Mercy in the meta. People were like, but what about like the res that completely negates the first kill?
I feel like
no,
it doesn't. Fair to
like it takes a yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. Like statistically, it absolutely doesn't. It takes away the cooldown, and then of course, if you killed Mercy first last season, it was just completely over. You basically killed 3 people in that sense, right? So at least in Stage 1. So yeah, it's. But even though this is all the case, this meta is actually worse. It depends on the team, and I'm very curious how, like, I think Vancouver has the highest win rate by far when they went down. Also because it's often bumper. But like otherwise, if you're one down in this meta and it's not one of the specific heroes, like I think once you're in fight and Lucio dies, it's not as terrible, for instance. Yeah, you're just doomed. Like it's at least statistically.
Yep.
All right.
Do we want to talk about Stage 2 a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, we can kind of theorize. I know that Dogman had a little bit of self-hate on the Zenyatta, role, and kind of low on the totem pole. Do you think that might change come possibly Stage 2 at this new PTR patch? Obviously, Baptiste, I believe he's coming in roughly 4 days to the live servers. Bump it a week, bump it 2 weeks, then he'll be on the competitive live patch. Generally, what's your thoughts? I know you guys haven't really taken too much time to explore that, but just your general consensus of this new patch in Hero 30.
I guess I kind of wish like Anna was more. It could have been a possibility. I don't know if ever she could come back, even because like Zen's just so good, and I think even these nerfs or changes to Zen aren't really massive nerfs. Even like I think what is it? His Discord has less damage, but
down
overall
5%, something like that.
Yeah, but he has more damage overall or something like that. And then Anna just got a straight nerf. I mean, the nerf wasn't even that much, I think, but it's still a nerf. I think I kind of wish. I guess she's in a good place, but everybody else is just too strong. I think is the general consensus that Baptiste is going to be a flex support. I think that was like is it the general consensus?
I would assume
we haven't
Yeah, I don't think so.
Much. You don't?
I
think
personally don't think so. No, I think Zen is still.
Or something?
Yeah, I think it depends on what. Like a lot of people are saying, okay, so Goats is still sort of alive and well.
Sure.
At least on some maps. And then what you would do likely is what people don't realize about Baptiste is he is actually, in effect, especially in Goats, the best healer in the game. Like he sometimes puts out in scrims right now 30% more than a Moira you put there. It's insane. Like I feel like his heal is almost overtuned. So given that, it's like, okay, so what if you put him in instead of Brig? So you don't have the setup anymore with Brig in Goats. Like you don't have to do these shatter combos.
Sure.
You also don't need the armor anymore. That is also now heavily nerfed in terms of utility, what it provides by being not below the energy shields. And then it's also like how much does the armor actually matter if you're not just your sustained healing, but also your burst healing is just so of the. Like it's Baptiste bursts harder than Brigade does, like in terms of healing you can do. So yeah, I think there's probably something to be said about just Goats with Baptiste there instead of Brig. But it's hard to see what else could just happen with the other heroes.
I guess you might have seen like PT or something like that, but I guess for the most part, because you said that he does like what you said 30% more than Moira, even. Wouldn't that make him a flex support then, right? Because like he could just like chill and just heal everybody up to full HP like by himself. You wouldn't need anybody else, I guess. Like if you had Zen, I guess. But even then, like even in GOATs already right now, like you only need Zen, Lucio, and Brig. So like, and those don't have that much healing. It's just more about the damage output, I guess. So like, if you just have him, he's able to do both, I guess, with his ult and then left clicks too. I think he could be a flex support, but that'd be. I'm just excited if he is one, I guess, because then that'd be like another hit scan hero. I mean, I know his burst rifle, and it's not like as impactful, I guess, as other heroes for sure. I think he'd still be fun because he'd be like similar to like playing Ana again, I guess. I guess not the same, but like he seems pretty skillful. I mean, besides his right click, for the most part, I hear that his right click also is like very easy to use. I mean, I know it's like very precise when you use it, but like if you're playing GOATs, all you have to do is just right click and it just goes in and heals up to full HP. Yeah. But he seems.
I wonder if the best way to nerf him isn't to reduce the splash, because that just seems insane.
It seems like another hero that D.Va's just going to do really well into. So like as we're, within this meta, we're seeing D.Va kind of slowly, and we've seen this progressively through contenders. We've seen her slowly kind of drop down in the power rankings. We're starting to see people replace her. We're starting to see more comps kind of.
I think it's just because, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I think it's definitely just because Sombra is so freaking strong.
Sure,
I think,
exactly.
I think there's a potential that like as soon as we like see some of these nerfs or something like that, we're just gonna see a massive like Sombra resurgence or something like that come back, just because how good Sombra is right now. Where you could just replace you could replace your off tank with her. So like we may see like some Sombra specialists come back, like with Dante, and then Guard is like a really good Sombra. I don't know how much you guys actually know.
Yeah, I think Yiska's very, very fond of Guard.
Yes, I keep retweeting that one tweet that I had sometime in like what would have been probably Contender Season 1 with Element Mystic. Yeah.
I think Guard's Brig's not that bad, but I think his Sombra
is easily like
his Sombra's like the best by like a pretty decent margin. I like Guard even when I was trying out with him. Like he seemed like a nice guy, but he's very he's also he's like one of the most pessimistic like Koreans I know, I think. Just because
very self-critical.
Yeah, he's really self-critical. Like he was like I know in tryouts he had like an injury, I think, even before the league, where he had like on his like hand he had like some sort of like I don't know, something preventing him from playing 100%. The guy's gone through a lot, and he's what, 20, I think? He's my age, I think.
Yeah, it is nuts to me that like I think he had one of those matches where he had like I think it was like 5.2 EMPs hit per EMP, which is nuts. It's like the entire team always, and he came out of that game and they won that too. I think it was the last one. He just went like, I promise to play better next game. It's like I disgraced my family or some shit, like completely pooping on everyone else. Like I'm not sure what he believes his ceiling is, but it is very scary to think that there's still room for him to improve upon, because like I already think he's far ahead. Like the interaction with his coach was like, we were reviewing an Element Mystic game, and they were playing Sombra, and I was like saying, okay, so if anything came out of this VOD review, it's that Guard is a nut on Sombra. And then I didn't add anyone. Just out of like nothing comes along his coach and says, just like response, Guard is best. And it's just like the tweet.
Well, it's true. I mean, like literally, Guard. I think specifically him. He probably plays Sombra at like the highest level that we've probably seen in Overwatch. I think in general out of Sombra. Like, I guess some people like think, what is it? When was it when Eska was playing Sombra, or was somebody else? When Sombra was just come out, was it Eska that was really good at Sombra?
Eska was definitely up there. Surprisingly enough, I thought Twilight always had a very, very good Sombra. Kind of was early in favor of her quite back in the day when he played for Conbox. He had a very good Sombra. I don't know if that's who you're thinking of. Eska did as well have a very, very lights out Sombra back when she was kind of this health pack engine when you would just hack health packs on Volskaya and just charge EMP.
right now I think Sombra's like really position based and like really movement based. Like with her E, like you're constantly rotating and trying to move into a position. It's very similar to like Tracer for sure. I think where like she's like always using to get back a little bit or like reposition to like a certain angle, and Guard like specifically like utilizes the kit to like a degree that nobody else does. I think Dante's really good at Sombra, but I think Guard is just like one of the best by far. But I guess that leads into like what we were talking about with the next patch, where I think Sombra potentially can be overtuned. Like she could shut out Baptiste with his E, right? Or like prevent him from even using it in the first place. So I don't know. Like Sombra is definitely, I think, gonna be. We might potentially go back to a Sombra meta, in which case I'm not excited.
Anything that stops you from playing the game, to be fair.
Yeah. What's actually interaction between the
I don't know if you can even hack it.
Prevention.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the question. Does it get EMP'd and then you can die through the?
Possibly.
Yeah. That's the interaction. I'm pretty sure that's if you
it should be.
It doesn't save anybody.
Yeah, I think that should be the case, and maybe also, I'm not. Like currently, everyone's just assuming for the duration of, like people are immortal, but I think pretty quickly we'll find out that good players get on top of it and just kill it very quickly.
Yes.
So.
It's not like 250 HP is like when you look at it, it's a lot. But when you have so many like mobile tanks that
you can also
kind of burst it.
You can also like hide it and stuff though. Like you can put it behind walls and it'll still have impact and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like small things you could do with it to keep it alive, I guess. But I think Baptiste will be good. But like I just imagine like he pops his E down when there's a diva bomb, and then everybody runs to the circle, and then EMP comes in, and then everybody just dies to it, and they just all ran towards the diva bomb. When you see Janu with a 6K or something like that.
Yeah.
But the next meta is gonna be. I think it's still up in the air.
Definitely.
Are you at all worried about only having like 11 days to prepare between stage 1 and stage 2, assuming that this is the meta shift we're looking at and this is the patch we're looking at?
If the meta does change, I think it'll be a little worrisome. But I think everybody, for the most part, besides if the meta did change, everybody for the most part would be on the same page. Like at least everybody else would have to change or have to adapt it in those 11 days, I guess. But also, I think people that don't make playoffs or the teams that don't make playoffs would have more time. I think.
Yes.
So, if the meta did change, I think that would be a little worrisome. But for the most part, I'd imagine people are still going to run goats for a little bit, or like until they find a new.
Going into stage 2, I think that you won't see just a complete shift. I don't think anybody's going to just be lights out on goats. So you've put too much time into it. It'll be a slow burn to change, but yeah, it'll change. It just won't immediately, I don't think.
At the same time, if I'm like Justice or Valiant or Mayhem, what the hell are you doing if you're coming back with goats? Like you already can say, okay, so let's already start practicing the max meta. We're not. Okay, yes. So for Justice and Florida, I guess they're playing each other, but like you should already be having your analysts.
You bring up a good point. You bring up a good point. If the non-playoff teams are going to be all-inning this next meta, and they come up with a new age comp that's going to beat goats. Once the teams from playoffs come in and they start scrimming, that'll catch wind, and yeah, definitely that could definitely happen for sure.
I mean, arguably, Chengdu has been doing that since the start of the Overwatch League.
Can't play like them. It's impossible. Impossible to replicate.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a hard match this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to kind of talk about the each individual match. You know, what's your thoughts on Chengdu? If you want to kind of give a brief profile of your opinion on them.
I don't know. I want to think like similarly to like the Patriots think, like freaking what is it? What's his name? Who's the head coach? I forgot. I can't believe I remember his name. Yeah, Belichick. Just like where you're like, oh, I'm not thinking about the future. I'm just thinking about the next match. Or whatever. But like we have 2 matches back to back, so it's hard to not think about both games publicly, I guess. So like those games, like specifically, probably would be one of the hardest, I guess, of the stage. I think Gladiators was really freaking good. I tweeted about it too, but like Gladiators was like even preseason to like now they were really good. I don't think that it's fair to say that is because of Surefour Zarya or whatever. Like I think Surefour Zarya was really good still. I just think as a team they just didn't perform on stage. Like I think a big factor was like Roar was like feeding for like literally 3 games in a row until like our match. Like he just like popped off and was really. I mean, I don't know if we just played bad or something like that, but Roar specifically was like has improved like immensely. Like within the week. Like the week before we reviewed him and he was just like hard charging, inting. Even my comp games, he was just holding shift and like going into backlines from across the map and taking all the damage.
Coast to coast.
Yeah, and
I play the same way, by the way. It's the same strategy. So Roar and I play the same, Ryan.
Yeah, you and Roar were the same, but now I guess that's the difference between you and Roar is that he can improve and you stayed the same.
All right, well, thanks for being on the show, Dogman.
Don't go me, lads. Let's go. Pack it up.
No, Roar is insanely good now. I think that's the factor I wanted to really touch on is that I think the biggest factor in them not doing well was because he wasn't performing until the later half of the stage. But for the most part, everyone expected Gladiators to be a good team. Like them and Spark were like the 2 top teams, I guess, besides NYXL. But Spark was also really good.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about them. You know, we heard on Oversight, and, you know, me personally, I definitely bought into the hype of there a little bit. You know, when you hear so many players and coaches talk about, like, oh, this is the team everybody's talking about, like, oh, you know, what are they going to bring out? These are players that I've kind of, you know, followed for a long time. They've got a couple Chinese players. So, again, you know, you get some brownie points in my book. What do you think happened with that mess?
I'm not sure. I think they were like really there. Maybe it's like a Paris sort of situation, like where they were good at the beginning and like they had this like special like sauce that wasn't like I don't know, it wasn't understood, but like so I don't know. Like the best teams were like NYXL and like Vancouver had that like throughout, like where they may have not had like such high peaks or whatever, but like they were consistently good. Whereas like at the beginning, Spark was like the best team, I think by a decent margin. But I guess maybe people like figured out like they didn't have anybody like especially good on their team, but something about them was like they were like utterly dominant. Like I guess it was the same with us at the beginning in like preseason, like where we were really good, and then leveled out a little bit more, I guess. But like they were like insanely good, and then just I don't know, just couldn't translate to the stage, I'd imagine.
See, that's very interesting because like the people I talked to said like they're splitting against them in pre-season scrims. So yeah, I was always of course like there's heavy selection bias in the people I talk to, but to me, I guess I lucked into talking to the people that had a chance that then told me they were just like middle of the pack where they now are. So I like, to me, from the information I have, it just seemed like, okay, so I would have expected them to win a match more than they did, but that they wouldn't be like in a Vancouver or NYXL situation. Yeah, that was pretty, for my information, pretty obvious to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like maybe we just had a bad matchup versus them, and like maybe their play style was really good at like preseason compared to us. And which I guess we didn't realize that in the first like preseason. I don't think anybody thought about like the rock paper scissors matchup that would be like goats. They just assumed like some teams would be better at goats than others. Not that some teams' playstyle would be better against other teams' playstyle. Like it's definitely a lot more complicated than just somebody's better at goats than you. It's just like
of course.
That's why it's so 50-50 right now. I think when it comes to like predicting matches and stuff, right?
Were those scrims you're talking about where they were very good before they came to the States or after?
I think they were in the States. I'm not sure. I always picked up like right before the season started, so
okay.
I didn't get experience, I guess, pre-States Spark, I'd imagine.
Yeah, because for me, the big question mark is still the recruitment of Sasin, right? Or Sashin, I think is
Sasin? I don't know. Sasin, right?
Yeah. I think he could be a big asset, and also in general towards future matters, because like he just seemed to be one of the more promising, like not like the gods, that you expect to come out of contenders, but tier 2.
Yeah, easily like a good. Even back when we were kind of making our little like owl pellets teams, that if we needed if you had a Korean core and you wanted a Korean projectile player that had experience playing Diva, Sashin did a good job. Like, was he going to be lights out your all-star ace player? No, of course not. But it was during a time where there wasn't very many that were kind of good, and he plugged right in. So, again, I've heard very good things from Spark with Shashin. So seeing him without, we'll see what happens when he gets brought in. Maybe he's very good at calming. Who knows?
Also, like, he seems to embody that sort of skill set that we see sort of required more and more now, where you need the flex tank to also be pretty solid on DPS. And of course, like when I think Sashin, I think Genji.
Genji Pharah,
yeah. So I think if that ever becomes important, then there are only a select few tanks that can, or off tanks that you even like connect to that type of player. Like Nico comes to mind, who was that back in the day with Rogue.
Nevix.
But Nevix or Choi. Yeah.
Was the Ding was like that too, right? Or Ding?
Yes, very much so. His Diva was always like, if we don't have to play him on Diva, we won't. We'll just put him on the Pharah. So yes, very much so. If there becomes a time where, and I do think that this is a very prominent time where you can have your Diva flex off. I just don't think it's imperative yet. I think if we were to take this patch and play it for another year, yes, you'd see that be one of the highest weighted things on my list of what you need in a team is your Diva has to be able to flex to something else because you can't just run Diva right now. So yes and no.
Who's this?
This is everybody waking up. So sorry.
Of course.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Was a question posed to me? Did I miss it?
No.
You're fine.
Okay, good.
What I wanted to know is, because I'm currently trying to model like a pattern of success for some teams. Like, one thing that really interests me is how valuable a contenders team is to an Overwatch League team. So not just for promotion, like in your case, or like in general. Do you need a moment? You're muted.
Oh yeah, sorry. Keep going.
Okay. So for instance, the Valiant doesn't have a contenders team. I wonder if there's more than just being able to get players, but also the cross pollination of like information, for instance, about goats, because we know like the contenders players overall in Overwatch League that played contenders before the season started, so the rookies are doing already pretty well against those veterans, right? So you think having a contenders team is like a considerable factor in having like an strong Overwatch League team at least this season?
I'm not sure because I don't know how much. I mean, yeah, probably, I guess, because NYXL plays against theirs. Vancouver doesn't have one, so I think. But
they did play in contenders themselves.
So they did play in contenders themselves, yeah. So I think having an academy team or playing in contenders, I think definitely does impact it, I'd imagine. But I don't know if it's like some extreme margin. I think it's like a lot of different things. It's like one of those. It's like similarly to like, why would a team get like a sports psychologist or something like that? I guess where it's like they add up. I guess like it's a lot of minor things, and that's necessary in a professional sports league that you need to like take those precautions just so that you can make you do everything to make yourself better. I guess so. I think having an academy team definitely does improve it, but I don't necessarily know if it's like by some insane margin or playing in contenders, I guess, by the same margin. But I think like, I think it matters because like I had a lot of experience in goats with or not like a lot of experience in goats, but a decent bit of experience in goats with our academy team. So I guess I knew what was needed of like a flex supporter in this meta, and the fact that like calm a lot, and that's kind of like I guess it's set like a basis, I guess, for like some sort of leadership, I guess, in a team. But I think, having a contenders team or having experience in contenders has definitely impacted a lot of the teams that are in the top right now.
Nice.
I guess I'll just continue doing live research because that is another aspect that. So I read this book interestingly on the recommendation of Captain Planet, the stats analyst for Overwatch League, and he recommended a book to me called Captain's Class. And it's basically a book summarizing like the greatest sports franchise or teams eras in sports history, and it boils it down and just tries to find like patterns. The one pattern is you gotta have a captain. And I wonder, like, I'm not sure how much you can talk about this for your team, who the captain figure is, but do you think it's possible to be a captain figure even if you're not on the starting roster?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think right now, especially in Goats meta, I think you need at least somebody or something. Not somebody specifically, but you need at least like a decent core of people that can bring consistent comms and that kind of stuff. Because it's hard for every player to just be that consistent, like calmer every day, I guess. But so you need at least one or two players that like can bring that. I think. I think like that's probably in like every team. I'd imagine is like having at least one or two people that can calm that like a lot or bring some sort of consistency to the team, even in practice. I guess that maybe leads into a little bit of what we do in our practice, so I probably shouldn't touch on it too much, but I think I agree. Yeah, I think that having a strong leadership figure or something like that is pretty needed.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, I got it. Okay, go ahead. One more. You get
just
one more.
One other thing.
One more.
Yeah, okay. So I think it's just hard in Overwatch because sometimes it's like, okay, so you have a player pool and they have real life characteristics of leadership and whatever. But the problem is that sometimes the role, depending on the meta, doesn't lend itself to leadership. So for instance, if you're like, I don't know, it's hard to say. Last season, what probably D.Va is probably not that good, just like in the history of Overwatch, or at least not as frequent, let's say, or even like.
I think on your point, I think it needs to like transfer. I think is what you're trying.
Yeah.
The ability to calm, like especially in this meta, I think that flex support should probably calm a lot, but it also depends. Like I know Boston has like a very frontline heavy like calm. Like Aim God obviously is not a talkative person. Neither is freaking Kelix. So like they obviously talk a lot on their front line. So I don't know if that necessarily like translates. Like yeah, they talk a lot and they're probably good to some respect because of it, but they may not have like the highest skill cap that they could because they don't have very talkative Zen or something like that. So like I don't know, it definitely transfers per meta, and because you need in some metas you need a very talkative DPS player. It changes for sure.
Yeah,
it doesn't stagnate. Yes.
Interesting. All right, we got to get out of here though. That's time. Yeah. That's 75 minutes. We're very punctual here on the show.
All right.
I do have one more question for you, Dogman. When's the next ult advantage?
Oh geez.
Called out.
I can say I guess there's something really interesting in the works that's that you might see sometime next stage. I guess.
All right.
See, I already have a good guess what it is. But like I don't want to spoil the surprise. Like not because
nothing's even set in stone, or even this is like pre-planning, like really far ahead.
I'm not even sure if I want to just say it out loud and see your facial reaction to it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my idea is that maybe like either shoulder content or like a watchpoint segment could just be like players talking as like part of the regular broadcast, and I could see just players talking amongst themselves.
I think on a bigger scale, I think like much like Riot is doing with each of their regions, having like kind of developer fronted podcasts. So like the Dive for like LCS and LEC has their own. What's stopping from the Overwatch League having your boy Dogman host his own Ult Advantage officially on the Overwatch League website?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Danny Green and his NBA podcast. So
nice. What about anything else about you that you want to say to any of the Atlanta Reign fans, where people can follow you, all that good stuff?
No, I'm just glad to be on a podcast. Thanks for having me. It's been nice. And obviously everybody's waking up, so thanks to my coach Kasaurus. He's a really great dude. Yeah, and then that's about it, I guess. Yeah, thanks to the Atlanta fans. Thanks to everybody. Thanks for watching the podcast. And follow up on Tactical Crouch or Teabag. Why do you call it Tactical Crouch? You just want What was the reason behind that?
Ask John. This is John's baby.
I just like clever names. Tactical Crouch is always fun because every time
I think the goal is to get
happens-
Carpe on. I think Carpe kind of started the Tactical Crouch movement. So, I think episode 100 maybe we'll try to get a translator.
See, I thought it was because Joe has a Sinatra tattoo on his left butt cheek.
I was drunk. It was a dare in college. Come on. I don't need this brought up on live.
Jeez. Yeah, it was just kind of like, hey, that's kind of funny. We can make that work. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just a thing, I guess. Yiska, what about you, man? What do you got coming up this week?
I got to get some writing on. I'll probably sit down immediately after this, try to figure out what this, now definitely announced the home game type of thing would look like, and what the implications are for Overwatch League, and then also how that could benefit Contenders players in a sense. And I still want to talk a little bit about the role of GMs over the weekend. So we're doing something like this.
Oh, actually, I think you bring up a good point with the contender stuff. I think you might see some scouting done as each team moves around the world. I think you're going to have to scrim against some teams you wouldn't normally have to, and there might be some players that impress. So we might see some fun scouting there. So I think this would be really interesting. I'm kind of interested to hear what your take is on that.
Nice. Joe, sorry, did you say what you're doing this week?
No, I still have my Valiant piece to write. It's almost done. It's been a work in progress for a little bit. Definitely check out the YouTube. I've got a couple videos I want to make. Obviously, Contenders China starts up, I believe, tomorrow. So go ahead and check that. I will not be on the broadcast. Definitely kind of taking a step away from that, but definitely go show all the love to the broadcast GG community and all of those fantastic casters and analysts that cover the Chinese scene. I will still be covering it, but not just officially for their broadcast. I expect a couple of videos about the charge. I had a request to kind of do a study on the charge, so I'll be doing that sometime soon. But yeah, just general content, more interviews coming. Stay tuned.
Awesome. As for me, doing a little bit more streaming here at twitch.tv/KickedTripod. That's been a lot of fun playing some Apex. Played a little Overwatch the other day.
Oh.
Did I?
Just going to leave it there? I played a little bit.
I guess I thought I was ready to talk about it, but I guess I'm not ready to talk about it. So, anyways, you can find me everywhere at KickedTripod. Make sure to follow the show at tactical_crouch on Twitter. Send us your messages and all that kind of good stuff. You can sub and support here at the channel, and all that goes to support the show and help us make, upgrades and all that kind of stuff. So definitely make sure to do that. Follow the channel here as well. And of course, you can download it to all your Spotify's and Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts and everywhere else. It's available everywhere. Just search for Tactical Crouch. Dogman, thank you again, man. Hope you had fun. Thanks for taking time. I know you're busy. I know you're super busy. So really appreciate you being on, and we'll have to get you on again.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, after they win Overwatch.
Exactly. We got dibs on first interview.
Let me win the stage first real quick.
All right. Sounds good. That's going to do it for episode 23. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.